Samantha de Bendern from the Royal Institute of International Affairs at Chatham House joins us now. Good morning, Samantha. Hello.
Good morning.
How do you counter the fact that, we are very clearly seeing pictorial evidence, or at least is it evidence? I don't know. But we're seeing pictures and we're hearing reports from the president and others that these terrible atrocities have gone on, but the Russians completely deny them, say they're fake news. How do you get past that?
Well, we're in 2022. You have satellite images, you have forensic scientists. I find it extraordinary that the Kremlin is denying this so blatantly when we have all the investigative tools at our disposal to investigate this. And we have to remember that crimes that were committed 80 or 90 years ago have managed to be successfully investigated 80 or 90 years after they were committed with modern technology. So how the Kremlin thinks that it will get away with investigating crimes that have taken place now is quite beyond me. What one can imagine that they would say, well, we are very concerned. We will also join in the investigation. They are just completely refusing to acknowledge the possibility that their troops could have committed war crimes. And, many countries commit war crimes. We have seen Western countries commit war crimes as well in wars, but we have never seen this refusal to investigate that we're seeing from the Russians. So the doubt will be removed. There has been some satellite imagery that has been obtained by a number of Western media outlets which show very clearly that the bodies appeared in Bucha before the Russians withdrew. I have actually spoken to somebody who has his country home not far from Bucha, who described how his wife went back to collect their cat after the Russians withdrew, and she had to step around the bodies. That these are the most atrocious stories that I'm hearing firsthand from people on the ground as to what has been going on there.
Does anybody, any country ever admit to war crimes, though, when a conflict is ongoing? I mean, I know it seems surprising when we see the evidence and hear what's coming out of the Kremlin, but in some respects, would we expect them to say anything else?
Well, I'll give you an example from this current conflict. Ukraine has been accused of war crimes in the shooting of prisoners of war. There was two videos that have gone around, one on the BBC, one was on the New York Times. The Ukrainian government's response has been immediately to say, we will have to investigate this. So here you have two completely opposite responses, because executing soldiers or shooting soldiers in the legs is also a war crime. It goes against the Geneva Conventions. You're not allowed to do that to prisoners of war. And war crimes have been successfully prosecuted. I would like to remind viewers of Abu Ghraib prison when the Americans committed war crimes against prisoners, and there have been successful prosecution.
Is there no independent body that could be sent in now that Russian forces are retreating from certain areas? Is there no independent body that can go in there that is respected by all sides?
Well, you have the International Committee of the Red Cross that could potentially go in. I don't know what their competencies are to investigate war crimes. They are an internationally respected body. And one of the issues that we are going to have, I think, is having too many journalists on the scene. That is something which I do find quite concerning, because of course it's contaminating evidence. But there are international bodies that could go in. The problem is, during an ongoing conflict, there are security concerns for getting international bodies in. My understanding is that the Ukrainians have actually called for independent investigators to come in. I'm not quite sure exactly what the status is today, but you already have investigators, at least Ukrainian investigators, who are collecting evidence. And this evidence will be able to be examined by other bodies as well. They're collecting DNA samples, they are photographing the scenes of the crime. So I'm quite confident that an international impartial investigation will be able to take place.
In terms of the wider situation and with the conflict, I mean, changing as it is, but still ongoing, is there any more the West could be doing at this point, rather than just pledging to send in more weapons?
Well, first of all, the West could stop buying Russian gas. The European Union, for instance, spends €1 billion a day on Russian gas. They were talking about up to 40 billion euros since the conflict began. It's easier for the UK to stop buying Russian gas because we have our own gas supply, so it is very complicated for Europe. But we have to stop energy imports from Russia because that is fueling the Russian war machine. I'm one of the few dissenting voices which thinks we should be doing a lot more militarily to help Ukraine. And the logic behind this is very simple. Putin only understands the language of force. Putin is somebody who meets his interlocutors at the end of tables which are sort of 30 or 40 feet long. This is not somebody who's going to want to start a nuclear war. This is not somebody who wants to die. Somebody who loves luxury is not going to want to spend his days in a nuclear bunker breathing filtered air and unable to enjoy all the trappings of the lifestyle that he's built for himself over the last 20 years. This is not somebody who I feel would be prepared to go to nuclear war if we showed a little bit more resolve in Ukraine. Now, there are a lot of complications about getting boots on the ground, a lot of complications about a no-fly zone. But the fact that we constantly say what we are not going to do, to me, is a bit like going to a poker game and telling your opponent, well, whatever happens, we're not going to call your bluff. We need to make Putin fear us more than we fear him. And we're not doing that yet.
Fascinating. Yeah. OK, we're going to have to leave it there because we're run out of time, but that is absolutely fascinating. Your idea as well of Putin enjoying his life of luxury and not wanting to die puts a sort of slightly different perspective on him, doesn't it?
It does.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.